Now let's look at this figure 21-49 and review circuit disconnects in accordance with 514.11 and 514.13. But, reviewing these disconnects, they're required to remove all the voltage. And of course, we look at 514.11 and 514.13. Now, in your code book, you could look at page 419 in the 2020 NEC, and kind of coming out the gate, 514.11a deals with an emergency disconnect. Of course, it could be located anywhere in accordance with the authority having jurisdiction and the fire department. And we could also look at NFPA 30A and look at 6.7, and you go through where the dispensers, you have an attendee there, or you don't, and that does make a difference in location. So if you look at 514.11b as in boy, you're looking at an attended type service station, and then of course you would place those, within, say, I think 20 foot, from 20 foot up to 100 foot, you could place that there. Unattended, then it gives you the rules in C to 514.11. Now, when you wanted to have the provisions for maintenance now and service, then that disconnect could be located anywhere in accordance with the authority of having jurisdiction and the fire department, as long as that disconnect was capable of being locked in the open position with or without a lock in accordance with 110.25. Now, when you start providing the service disconnects, look at 514.11 A through C, and look at 514.13, and I think you have the information there that you need to locate the disconnect properly. Sometimes, inspectors will require the disconnect to actually be on the island under some conditions, right there, or with 20 foot to 100 foot location, in accordance again with authority having jurisdiction where they want these placed by their ordinances. But the dispensers, you can review those in detail, looking at figure 514.3 and the NEC, and then your tables 514.3B1 and B2. The removing of the voltage, and what's required again, is 514.11 and 514.13. Seals coming out of the ground, 514.9A, where you would provide your seal. And that's within, your 18 inches areas where you could put that seal. And then, of course, you could have a rigid up, and then have non-metallic buried in the ground there. So, and usually you have to have a 2-foot cover there, as you see to the left of the illustration, where the head is underground circuits in Class 1, Division 1 locations, or Class 1, Division 2, depending on which state, county, or city you're in. And the PVC has to have a 2-foot covering over it, see. But this used to be a Class 1, Division 1 area there, see, underneath. So depending on which code that you're on, and then 514.8 exception 2 will illustrate that rule. So basically, that's what this figure 21-49 is illustrating to the user of the code. The disconnects required in 514.11 and 514.13, and then what could be used in the burial depths, where you could use rigid metal conduit and rigid up with it, and then have non-metallic conduit in the ground between the L's where you rigid up so you won't saw through with the wiring when you're pulling it, see. And then notice there's a seal required. You seal in the fire pump as you see here, or excuse me, fire pump in the dispenser, and then you seal, leaving it, going to the next one and seal. The only time I've never seen these seals or required them is when it was, it wasn't gasoline. It was a high octane type gas in some cases, but it wasn't, it had a very high flash point, such as diesel. And, those seals, to me, it doesn't say that it's required for diesel. Without the authority having jurisdiction with electrical art, it just says, we don't care if it's diesel, gas, whatever it is, we're going to seal. So you always want to check with the authority having jurisdiction and see what any local ordinances may say. But that's exactly what this figure 21-49 is illustrating to the user of the code. And then do not forget to review NFPA 30A, starting with Chapter 6, and I think along about 6.7, you're going to pick up these rules for the location of the disconnect based upon an attended or unattended gas station where you're fueling your vehicle. And that's what this illustration is trying to illustrate to the user of the NEC.